Hello and welcome back to the Two Cams and Sam's Rugby podcast. And today, all three of us are here, and we're going to be discussing our predictions for this weekend's matches, starting with Scotland in more detail, and then moving on to Ireland, France, and England, Italy. So, Cam and Sam, do you want to say hi?
Good afternoon, or good evening.
Hello, good evening.
And let's just jump straight into the Scotland Wales game. Um, we've got one change, which is Xander back in for now. Not for now, for Bergen, and Nell drops to the bench. So it's a pretty comfortable team, that. And Wales made a lot of changes. What do you think about the new Welsh back row?
I think it's scary.
It could
That
be
is,
very,
is
very
it?
good. I thought
Yeah,
Morgan was the only player last week for them who I thought really stood up and looked really good. Um, I don't know, how many times has he played 8 before? I've only ever really seen him as a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, I'm not sure about him at 8. I thought he was brilliant last week, but I think he's going to be too small.
I think he's going to be fine. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Jack Morgan's. He's a strong ball carrier, and I think that's like I think if it's not going right, you've got like Faletau to bring off the bench, so it's not exactly the worst thing if he does play bad. But like you want to try and fit in Chinza somehow, and I'm actually like even though we're playing against him. Like I am happy he's getting the opportunity because I'm a fan of Chinza.
I'm quite excited I'm interested to see how Shinza goes. I don't know, for Exeter, I know against Quins he had an absolute stormer, a very frustrating game, including him scoring a corner. But he's had a few moments where I've not been fully convinced by him. He is capable of having a really, really good game, but I'm not 100% convinced that he is already a test level flanker.
Can he play 8? Because he's quite big.
I I've never seen him at 8. I think he's more like a second row than an 8 in terms of like he's really tall, but he's not like a massive
Right.
ball carrier.
Yeah, because I was
Yeah,
just thinking they could move them around during the game, which would be quite interesting.
yeah, and obviously
I
they've
think
kept the same backline as last week, which obviously it provided absolutely nothing against Ireland, apart from that one Liam Williams try, which didn't really mean much. But I reckon if we keep a strong defence, then we could be pretty impenetrable. But I just hope nothing stupid has happened during the week where like we've lost focus and like during the game we just end up allowing Wales to have the opportunities that they just shouldn't be able to have, like they have in
Yeah.
previous years.
I think they're going to use Hawkins, loads on the crash ball, and we
Yeah,
just need to have our midfield be very aware of that he's going to be, you know, he's going to look like a dummy option, but he's actually going to get the ball a lot, and we need to just make sure we're absolutely solid as a rock. Don't let them, with their, like, uncreative 10 and kind of less skilled backline than ours, get any sort of opportunities, because if we let them get on top of us, the pressure comes on massively, and we need to shut them out.
I think
definitely.
the battle for 12s is going to be the key. I think Tuipulotu and Hawkins are both very skillful players, both good ball carriers, both good with their feet, and so I think they're both players that are capable of doing something really, really special. Um, I think I back Tuipulotu to come out on top against a very young Joe Hawkins, but it will be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it is also a huge test for Hugh Jones. Obviously, he's had history against George North where like he's sort of like defended really poorly against him. And obviously, he's back in the Scotland jersey. He got his try against England, and he had a 100% tackle success rate. But obviously, George North, even though he's not that good anymore, he's still a very strong ball carrier, and he still has a clean pair of heels on him. So it'll be interesting to see how Hugh Jones deals with George North. But I do back Jones to sort of like deal with him in a good way.
yeah, Jones has never really had a good game against Wales. In 2018, he played at 12 with Harris on debut, and it was 34-7, and we scored in the last minute or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on that year, he got run through twice, and they scored 2 tries. And I'm not sure he's played against them since. So he's
No,
got like personal. He needs to up his game for Wales and properly show that he can mix it.
So I think Hugh Jones is the best he's ever been. Um, like 2018, he was a very special player. There had like these ridiculous moments, like his solo try against England. But I feel now he's such a complete player. Defensively, he still has got a huge amount. Like he's still a very threatening player. He's a really good ball carrier. He's a good defender, and he's good at distributing. He is now like by far the best he's ever been. I think that season at Quins, we'll take the credit for it. Did him quite a lot. Like he improved massively over that year.
Yeah, his dropping from the Scotland squad and then moved to Quins and kind of being played in 15 and 13 and 12 over the last couple of seasons has, I think, rounded him out really, really well. And he's also spoke this week about how Steve Tandy's been working with him on his defence as well. So I think he probably gets a bit more credit than Quins do, but he certainly kicked on. He was a very, very special attacking player in 2018, but he was just so kind of rough around the edges. And now he feels way more kind of complete.
Yeah, his overall game has improved massively since he went to Quins, and now he's come back to Glasgow. He's got this partnership with Tui Pelotu, and like everything's going well. He's replicated his club form into international form. You just got to hope he continues that this weekend, and I'm fingers crossed he does.
And what do you think about Xander starting with Nell on the bench, like straight back in?
It's a bit harsh on Nell, I'll be honest, because he did have a very good game against England. But if one of them is to make an impact from the bench, it will be WP now. Because obviously Xander Fagerson, we've seen in the past, he does struggle sometimes, like in the scrums. But I know he's become a lot better in recent years. But I've seen so many penalties given against us because he can't keep a scrum up. But obviously he's become a lot better at that, and he's coming back from an injury. And I think who's he up against? Wyn Jones. That'll be a good competition for him. And if it's not going well, WPNL off the bench, that's not the worst thing in the world.
I think the only reason Xander's gone straight back to start is because Nell is probably absolutely exhausted after last week.
Oh, yeah.
But he'll still be brilliant off the bench, but it's just the fact that we didn't have Xander available. That means like he's kind of almost been forced to start. But according to Townsend, he's been training since before they went to Spain, like full contact. He's been looking good, so I think he should just slot straight back in pretty well.
Yeah, I think if Xander is fit, he is the best tight head in Scotland. Like, there's no debate about that. WP now is a very valuable player. He can come in and do a job, but he doesn't offer what Xander offers.
No, certainly Xander kind of ball carrying and just general passing skills and stuff is a level above Nell, for sure.
Yeah, he's another player who, in like the past couple of years, he's really improved his game. Even though like he has done a few things like in games before, like against Wales 2 years ago, where he got sent off. That was a bit of a brain fart. But like ever since that red card, he has been. I'll say he's been very, very good. He got his call up to the Lions. That's deserved. And yeah, ever since then, he's just been fantastic.
Yeah, and until kind of this season or last season, he was pretty much the only prop in his position that was actually fit at Glasgow for a while, and he'd had to play lots of games, 75 minutes, 80 minutes, so he will stay on for quite a while, I think, until the time to bring Nell on for the scrum impact is like the opportune moment, like 20 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, and he's a very valuable player to have back.
I guess the only other talking point from the Scotland squad is a few people were suggesting that Watson could come back in to 23. Obviously he's not. Any thoughts on that?
I think Crosby's played well, made a lot of tackles, worked hard. He pretty much offered the same thing that Hamish would offer in his current play, except Hamish hasn't been playing, so I completely back the decision. I wouldn't take Dempsey off the bench to make room for Hamish, and I wouldn't not start Crosby, so I agree with it. Maybe after the kind of break in the Six Nations and Hamish gets more game time for Edinburgh, if he plays very, very well, then he could be back in, but for me, I think it's all pretty fine.
Yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine with Crosby starting and Dempsey off the bench. I feel like Hamish Watson obviously hasn't played much rugby, But if he can, and obviously he's not been as good as he has been like since like around early 2021, where he was getting player of the championship in the Six Nations and getting called up to the Lions. So he might rediscover his form, but I'm not entirely fussed right now because Luke Crosby against England, he put in a very good shift, and then Dempsey off the bench. I mean, he was superb. So just keep it the same. Hopefully, we play the same as well, and hopefully we can finally get a win against Warren Gatland.
Mm. And what do you think about no Tipuric at all?
He
I
wasn't that
think,
good against
yeah,
Ireland.
he had a poor game. I think it's still a big call to just completely leave out a player
Yeah,
like Tipperick, who's got so much credit in the bank. He's been playing well for Ospreys. One bad game, he's complete out of 23. But there's a lot of competition. I think Raffle is a really, really good player. Um, I think the bold one in their back row is Shunza for me. I think all the others have proven at like a very high level that they are ready to start for Wales in a game like this. Shunza, I'm not completely convinced. So, but I think Tipperick had a really, really questionable game last week. So
yeah. Tipuric was awful, but he's been playing so well. I think I think his dropping is just a matter of maybe the balance on the back row, just because it's almost two open sides and a blind side currently. So if it was three open sides, it wouldn't really work. So yeah, it's a crazy call considering how well he's been playing, and it's only one bad game. But I kind of understand it.
Yeah, no, yeah. Tipuric, obviously, we just said that he wasn't that good last week, and three players being put in who like they deserve their place, and that overall back row, like that is a very good balanced back row. You've got pace, you got strength, you got I mean, Tori Rafael is one of the best tacklers in the Northern Hemisphere. Jack Morgan is a very strong ball carrier, so yeah. But I think our back row, especially with Dempsey off the bench, it can put in. I think we can deal with him alright.
Right. Should we move on to the France Ireland game? Potentially the biggest game of the whole championship.
Go on then.
yeah, okay. Um, so I guess the big one is Sheehan not fit. How much of a loss do you think that is for Ireland?
Well, Ireland have had injury struggles at hooker in the last 2 years or so. Sheehan kind of came from the bottom of the pecking order straight to the top with Kelleher out, I think it was. But Rob Herring is another great option at hooker. I think they'll miss Sheehan's dynamism in the loose, but I don't think it's a massive loss when it comes to the scrum or the line out.
Yeah, I think Dan Sheehan against Wales, he was very good, but it's not exactly the worst thing in the world having Rob Herring come in and then having Ronan Kelleher come off the bench. Obviously, Kelleher has been injured for quite a while, but I'm sure his return will be well greeted, and off the bench he might uh, provide France with some trouble.
Yeah, I think Sheehan is a better player than um, the other two, but I don't think it's a massive. Like they're still very good players, but it could be in a game like this. It will be fine margins. Maybe those it will be that will be the difference, but I don't know. I think it's unlikely that that really has a huge impact on the game.
How do you think they're going to play? I think France are going to go for just a complete outmuscle the Irish team. I think that's the best way to play against them, is to kind of use their kind of size advantage in the forwards and not let it get too loose, because I think the Irish team has the ball players to kind of mix it with the French at the moment.
I'm honestly
I
not
think
sure what type of game it could be. Um, Obviously, I'm pretty sure France have stuck with the same pack that struggled at points against an Italian pack which isn't as strong. Like Negri and like Canone and Rutzer were having an amazing time at points against the pack. So we'll just have to wait and see because Ireland's pack is way stronger than Italy's. So we have to see how France's discipline treats them.
Yeah, I think France will be much better than they were last week. Their discipline last week was just like outrageous. Like for the number 2 ranked side in the world to be giving away, it was 18 penalties. They won't do that again. They will learn from that. They will be much better. Um, I think it was La Rochelle who gave a template on how to beat Leinster, which is pretty much Ireland, and it is all about outmuscling them. The thing, like the Ireland team, it's just they've got this cohesion. The way they take it to the line and pull it back is so effective. You need to find a way to slow them down, and I think France have got a good Jackal Fretch and Jalange and Olivon, and they should be able to really slow down that ball and just really dominate the collisions. And I think France should be the favourites.
Alright, so should use some prediction time, scoreline for the France Ireland game.
Hmm. I'm honestly
I
not
think
sure which way it's going to go. There's not been a good game at the Aviva Stadium in years, like for this fixture. So I don't think it's going to be very high scoring at all. It's going to be a very physical, close contest. I think I think at the moment I'm thinking Ireland are going to win, but they're going to scrape a win by like 3 or 4 points. There's not going to be much in it, but France could easily also win by 3 or 4 points. So I think I'll give it to Ireland right now. Even with the injuries they've got, I think they still have a better chance than France.
Yes, Sam?
Yeah, I think France are gonna win it. I think we saw it in the autumn. Their first game wasn't the greatest. It was the same last year with Six Nations. They got pushed quite close by Italy. Um, they do start off quite weak, but they've won this many games in a row for a reason. I think this Ireland team, they had an impressive first half, but the second half Wales pretty effectively shut them down last week. I think France will be able to cause them problems. I think France will win it by 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'm backing France by 2. I think it's going to be an extremely close game. I can see it going either way, but I don't think anyone's going to win by more than 4 or 5 points. But I think France will just clinch it by 2, and it won't be more than like 20 points between the teams, like each.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to
I
be a
agree
low
with that.
scoring game and it's going to be a close game and a very good physical contest. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching that as a neutral.
Yeah, and so England, Italy. Obviously, the teams aren't out yet, but just kind of we know some of the people that have been left out from the England squads. Italy's probably going to be fairly unchanged. I don't think Garbisi's come back to fitness yet. So, what are we thinking?
Well, I've got one of my best friends is Italian, and all week I've been telling him he's going to the game, and I've been telling him I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win. So I'm going to stick with that. I think Italy might just edge it. Um, I think like Italy
I
have
think that's
come.
an optimistic Scottish opinion there, Sam.
Uh, that may be the case, but I just think Italy have come so far. I think that they're consistently producing top performances, and I think a lot of people have criticised France last week, but I think Italy sort of brought France down to their level pretty effectively, and it was Italy forced the errors out of France. And if Varney can have a slightly better game and Italy can cut out a few of their silly mistakes, I really think they can win, and they should win.
Yeah, I think I don't think Italy are going to get close. Really, I'll be honest. I think England are going to want something after losing the way they did against Scotland. Obviously, we defended very well, but they had way more of the ball, and I feel like against Italy they're going to have a lot more of the ball than what they did against Scotland, and they're going to have a lot more territory, and they're going to have more attacking opportunities to score from. So I think it'll be a convincing England win, but Italy they will do their own thing. They'll get a few tries.
Well, I'm more leaning towards Sam's opinions than yours.
Hmm.
I don't think England are going to run away with it. I think it's going to be very close. I think England are going to have a better team cohesion than they had against us. Maybe not the Farrell Smith axis, maybe just one of them with better centres. I think Ben Earl will probably come in for Curry, and he will have a good game. But I think the Italians are going to be properly up for it. I think it's going to be another one that's, one score in it, less than 7 points margin. But I think England will just about scrape through just a better bench, I'd imagine. And so I'm going to say England by about 5, but I do think it's going to be an excellent game, and Italy, they could get the upset.
Yeah, I mean, you could go either way. The way I see it is either going to be England are going to run away with it, or Italy could do something like provide an upset. But I don't know. I've seen them lose to England the past few years. They've not really been that good. We even saw it in the autumn, and they got smashed by South Africa a week after beating Australia. And they're just coming off of a decent performance against France. But I think the England boys are going to be up for it. I think they're going to change quite a bit. It's definitely not going to be the Farrell Smith axes.
Smarrell. Is that
I
the new
nearly
name for
said
it?
Smarrell. That is actually not a bad name.
It's not quite
I've
you,
got a bit of a
Pilotti.
stu- I've
It's not,
I've
it's
got a
not
bit
quite
of a
Huey Pilotti.
I've got a bit of a stutter going on right now. I don't know what's going on.
I think they
Right.
could stick with Smith Farrell. I thought I was watching back a bit of the game today, and England's second try it was a really, really nice attack, managed really well with Smith and Farrell alternating first receiver. And I thought, that one attack really did give a glimpse of how the Smarrell axis could work
No,
quite well.
we're not calling it that. All right, we're not calling that. But no, I agree that it works very, very well on attack against us, but defensively it was all over the place. And I think they're going to look at their defence this week in review. Kevin Sinfield, Steve Borthwick, and they're going to look at those glaring errors where it happened, where it was the midfield and Smith, Farrell, and Marchant, and they're going to go, no, we're not having that, because if you cut those errors out, suddenly we don't score probably 2 of our tries. So I think it's going to change. It works in attack, and they might do it in the second half from the bench, but I think they're going to get rid of it, and it's going to be one of Smith and Farrell starting.
Yeah, I can see Ollie Lawrence starting in the centres. I think it has to be a big figure in that 12 shirt, because you see at Quins, Smith works really well with Esterhazen in the centres, and with Owen Farrell, you don't have that at all. It's not even close. And obviously, you go back to the defence. Owen Farrell is not defensively sound. He was exposed multiple times against Scotland, especially for the first try that we scored. So
Yeah.
I think Farrell will be on the bench. You'll be Ollie Lawrence or Manu Tuilagi at 12. And then Farrell will come on later on in the game and just ease things.
Do you think it's possible that a lot of the criticism of Farrell's tackling is slightly getting to him? I think last week he seemed really keen to show that he could make big hits on Russell using his arms. I just wonder, could that come from after Gloucester he got so much criticism? Could that be linked?
Maybe, but I also think he was just trying to hit Finn, trying to put the pressure on. I'm not sure it was much of a point about his technique as much as it was just making sure that Finn knew he didn't have much time. If he'd thrown out the line and smashed Finn with no arms, then obviously it wouldn't have gone well. So I don't think it was because of his criticism of his tackle technique. I think it was just, he's got to make these big hits. He's going to do them properly. It's not like he didn't know how to tackle. It's just he was one that often made terrible tackles.
Yeah, and plus the entire England team, they were targeting Finn Russell. You saw Marcus Smith and Freddie Stewart. Finn Russell mentioned in an interview recently that he was getting a bit of shit given to him by Smith and Stewart during the game. That's why he went and barged foul, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what you do that for?" Yeah.
Ludlam also smashed Finn after one of his kicks as well, so there was definitely a plan to get him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right. Should we move on to the prove me wrong section of the episode?
Go on then.
One of you want to take it away?
Go on, Sam.
Okay, fine. Prove me wrong. Ben White is currently the best 9 in the Northern Hemisphere on form.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah.
Right, prove me wrong. Like Hawkins is going to have an unreal game against us, and it's going to be the only good international game he has for a very long time.
I disagree with that second bit. I think Hawkins is a really, really classy player.
No, I can see him having a storm against Scotland there, and then not playing as well for the rest of the Six
Yeah,
Nations.
yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it happen
It'd
to
be
us before.
typical. It'd be quite typical.
I've seen Haber Hollow have an absolute stormer against us and do nothing, and
Yeah,
people
he's
said he was
barely played
pretty good.
since.
Yeah, exactly.
And mine is, I think Scotland will bottle it, and it'll be 13-0 from Gatland against Scotland. But obviously, prove me wrong. I want to see that not happen. So that's my one. You
Yeah.
probably want to see the same thing.
I'm more nervous for this than I am the England game because all the pressures on Scotland. You know, we need to actually back it up this year. We weren't able to do it in the past 2 years. You know, we bottled it on both occasions. So we've just got to hope this year's different. You know, because Townsend hasn't made like any stupid selection or anything. He's been very sensible. He's kept the same squad with Ferguson, and you know, we I just really hope we can just get the win. That's all I ask for. I don't care how much we win by.
Yeah, I mean it's at Murrayfield at home. Shout out Rory Brady, my mate. He's going, so hopefully for his sake and everyone else's sake, we manage to finally get that win over Gatland. And finally, our predictions for that match, as we did not give the score at the start. What are we thinking?
I think this year is different, to be honest. I think the reaction to beating England previously has always been like this complete, like, huge celebration. Like, it's just like we've just won the World Cup. It's been, and then, like, Finn and a lot of the boys probably went out on quite a big night out. This year, yes, they celebrated. It was a big win, but they seemed sensible about it. In the interview straight after the game, they were already talking about, okay, now the focus is on Wales. They flew straight back up to Scotland that night, so there weren't any crazy celebrations. I think it is different. The squad seems a lot more focused. They've accepted that beating England is just the norm now. That's what we do. We do it every year. It's not a big deal. The focus is now on beating Wales, and I think for that reason Scotland are going to win by 12.
Yeah, I mainly agree with everything you said there. I do think it's very different this year. The mentality Scotland have had already shown, way less celebrating, as you said, and flying straight back up. I do still think there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I think the opening 20 minutes is going to be massively important. Scotland have to, not concede and get their own score on the board, whether it's penalty or try. But I see them riding through it, and I'm saying Scotland by 10.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, boys. But we've seen this story so many times, and I love to be positive, as positive as I can about Scottish rugby. But when it comes to a Wales game, you never know what's going to happen. But like we haven't beaten them in a couple of years. I think we're at that stage now where we have to get a win against them. And you know what? I'm going to back us, but it's not going to be close. I mean, it will be close. So I'm going to say Scotland by 8.
All right. Sounds pretty good to me. I think we're all pretty similar there. 4 points in it between our predictions. So yeah, thanks for listening to this episode. We are very much looking forward to the matches this weekend. Hopefully Scotland will finally get that win. We'll be 2 from 2. Moving on to get that Grand Slam. Next match in Paris, we'll definitely do it. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.